All right, let's talk about data roles. If you've ever looked at a list of job titles and felt like your head was spinning, you are not alone. The world of data has all these titles that sound almost the same. But today, we're going to clear all that confusion up once and for all.
I mean, seriously. Data engineer, data scientist, data analyst. What's the real difference, right? People use these titles almost interchangeably. But here's the thing. They're actually super different roles. The problem is, it's all just kind of noise until you have a simple way to think about it.
So, how do we cut through that noise? Well, we're going to make it really simple. For this whole explainer, I want you to imagine a restaurant, a really nice one. And in this restaurant, all the raw ingredients, the veggies, the spices, the meats, that's our data. So let's go meet the staff. All right, first up in our restaurant, we've got the person who makes everything else possible, long before a single ingredient even gets chopped. This is our data engineer, but here we're going to call them the kitchen architect. Now, here's the key thing you gotta understand about the kitchen architect. They don't cook the food. Nope. Their job is to build a totally amazing, world-class kitchen. They're the ones installing the huge industrial ovens. Think of those as our databases. They're laying down all the plumbing and the gas lines. Those are our data pipelines. And, crucially, they make sure the walk-in fridge is always stocked with fresh, high-quality ingredients, and that is our raw data. And honestly, this says it all. Think about it. Without them, the kitchen is just chaos. There's no water, no gas, no ingredients. The chefs can't do a thing. It's an empty room. The data engineer is the absolute foundation for everything. So how do they build this incredible kitchen? Well, they've got some heavy-duty tools. Python and SQL, those are their wrenches and power drills, for all the construction. Cloud platforms, that's like finding the perfect real estate for the restaurant and getting all the utilities hooked up. And Spark? Oh, Spark is like a super advanced, high-tech conveyor belt system that keeps the whole kitchen running smoothly, even during a massive dinner rush. It just handles everything. Okay, so the kitchen is built, it's beautiful, it's ready for action. But who's going to actually create the amazing dishes for the menu? Well, that's where our experimental chef comes in. This is our data scientist. This person is the creative genius, the mad scientist of our kitchen. See, the data scientist isn't just cooking what's on the menu today. No, they're inventing the dishes of tomorrow. They're in the back, experimenting with wild new flavor combinations. Those are our algorithms. Trying to predict what amazing new dish people are going to be obsessed with next season. And that right there is the absolute key. The data scientist is obsessed with the future. Their whole job boils down to one predictive question. What's going to happen next? They're basically the fortune tellers of the data restaurant. And, their toolkit totally reflects this mission. Machine learning, that's their secret cookbook full of advanced, almost magical culinary techniques. Statistics, that's their deep understanding of flavor chemistry, what pairs with what. And Python, well, Python is like that one perfectly balanced chef's knife they use for just about everything. Okay, so we've got a state-of-the-art kitchen, we've got a genius chef inventing mind-blowing new recipes, but how do we actually know if the food is any good? I mean, do people even like it? Well, for that, we need our insightful critic, and this is our data analyst. The data analyst is basically the bridge between what's happening in the kitchen and the front-of-house business. They're the ones looking at the sales reports from last night. Which dishes completely sold out? Which ones did nobody order? They taste the food, so to speak, and then they go to the restaurant owner and say, hey, this dish is a massive hit, but that one, we got to change it. And here it is, the big difference between the analyst and the scientist. The analyst is all about the past and the present. Their main questions are descriptive. What happened and why did it happen? Their job is to tell the story of what the data is telling us right now. So their tools are all about finding that story and then telling it effectively. SQL is how they dig into the sales records and get the raw numbers. Tableau and Power BI, that's how they turn those numbers into beautiful, easy-to-understand charts and reports. Kind of like writing a really compelling restaurant review with pictures. And hey, look at that last one, communication. That might just be their most important tool of all. So let's just put them right next to each other to make it super clear. The scientist, our chef, is all about predicting the future. The analyst, our critic, is about describing the past. It's really that simple. One predicts, the other describes.
All right, let's wrap this part up with the whole crew. You've got the engineer, the kitchen architect, asking, is the kitchen ready to go? Then you have the scientist, our experimental chef, asking, what should we cook next? And finally, the analyst, the insightful critic, asking, how did our dishes actually do? See, each one has a totally distinct, super important job.
But just like in a real modern restaurant, things aren't always so clear-cut. The lines between these roles are starting to blur a little bit, and we're seeing some really interesting hybrid roles pop up. Let's call them today's special. So, for example, you've got the analytics engineer. Think of them as a mix of our architect and our critic. They're the ones who set up a perfectly organized prep station just for the critic, making their job way easier. And then there's the ML engineer. This is a mashup of the scientist and the engineer. They take that one brilliant, super complex recipe from the chef and figure out how to mass produce it perfectly every single night without fail.
So, we've had the grand tour of the data restaurant. We've met the whole staff. Now the big question is for you. Which seat is yours? Where do you see yourself fitting in all of this?
Let's think about it. Do you get a kick out of building things, like designing that perfect, shiny, stainless steel kitchen and making sure every single pipe and gas line works flawlessly? If that's you, you've got the heart of a data engineer.
Or maybe you're drawn to the creative, experimental side of things. Does the idea of playing with molecular gastronomy, inventing dishes nobody's ever even thought of, and trying to predict the next big thing in food, does that get you fired up? Well, that's the soul of a data scientist. Or what about this? Do you love figuring out what makes people tick? Do you get the most satisfaction from tasting the final product, figuring out why it was a hit and then telling that story to everyone else? If that's your thing, you're probably a born data analyst. Look, whether you're the one building the kitchen from scratch, inventing the next culinary masterpiece, or telling the world how great the food is, every single one of these roles is absolutely essential. So the only question left is, at the data restaurant, where are you going to sit?